Hello, and welcome to another fully live Friday episode of Hacking with Friends. My name is Cody Kinsey. I'm a security researcher at Varonis, and today we have my good friend Alex Lynn on to help us read through the security news and comment a little bit about the things that are happening. Alex, thank you for joining us today.
Always great to be here.
Yeah, so today we have a lot of stuff to cover, and we're sorry we're getting started a little bit late. We had an issue with our original event not publishing successfully. So if you are confused, then and you're only seeing this maybe on Twitter, then there is a new YouTube event that we've published to. It seems to be fixed now. All right, so getting started today, we had a lot to talk about last week, and I believe we ended on talking a bunch of smack about those new Facebook
smart glasses of some sort?
Yeah, it was kind of teased as though they were going to be like augmented reality or something, but in the end, they just look like very similar to the kind of stuff you would find on AliExpress. That's just like a pair of glasses with a little camera stuck in them. So if we switch over to my screen, we can see a quick photo of these glasses, and they're Ray-Bans. They have a camera very obviously placed kind of on either side. So obviously, if somebody walked in wearing these, you would pretty much immediately know something was up. Probably also by the incredibly thick stems of these glasses.
Conspicuous.
So, yeah, very, very suspicious. So, but don't worry. Like, even though some places like Ireland, for example, have raised some security concerns over these, Facebook has gone out of its way to engage, privacy groups in order to make sure that they got input. Isn't that great, Alex? Don't you
Wonderful.
feel safer already?
Of course, Facebook always makes me feel secure with their outreach.
Yeah, so, by reaching out to these privacy groups, then Facebook should have a fair and balanced perspective on how, strapping two cameras to your face and then walking about throughout your day might impact your privacy if it was on behalf of a company that's famous for slurping up every detail in order to send you advertising. But what if I told you that basically all 5 privacy groups that they spoke to were exclusively funded, well, maybe not exclusively, but at least partially funded by Facebook. So if you did a study and then found out that the lab was built by the company who was submitting things to be studied there, you might assume that there might be a little bit of a conflict of interest. That's what we call that. So if you're going to go out and bother to engage like a third-party group to get their opinion about how strapping 2 cameras to your customers' faces might affect their privacy, it might help if those privacy groups were actually independent and not paid directly by Facebook. So, I can't say that this is really that surprising from, again, a company who thinks the best improvement to your life would be to directly connect them to it via a camera. It's not surprising that they really didn't want outside feedback from this, because I think a lot of people instantly don't like it. Especially people who are hoping for some augmented reality thing or something that's actually going to help you. Again, you can go on AliExpress right now and buy a pair of glasses with really thick stems and an obvious camera and do whatever you want with it. The only difference, presumably, is the ones you get from AliExpress are going to be uploading the footage to China, whereas the Facebook glasses will be uploading it directly to Zuckerberg.
To be fair, these are pretty stylish, so it's somewhat vindicated.
Yeah. Although I have to say there are some very cool AliExpress sunglasses out there.
Oh my god.
And there are some very uncool ones too. But yeah, so it was interesting here to see that in fact the privacy groups that Facebook engaged were not independent at all. It's nice to look like you're doing privacy outreach and advocacy, but if you want to look like you're not just trying to control the conversation, then it would be worth it to maybe talk to a group besides one that you're just directly giving money to. So no big surprises here, but I can say from my experience that the vast majority of people that I have showed this to have not liked it. All right, so moving on, a group of hackers on steroids, which is a very weird way to describe a hacker group, gained access to a large data set belonging to Epic, which is the web host of a lot of websites that are not able to be hosted on other platforms like GoDaddy and other places because they're controversial, violate their terms of service, or are just awful. This web company tends to host extremists and other people that are driven off of the regular internet because of the stuff that they post on their websites. So famously, this is the web host of the recent Texas abortion snitch website, I believe is the way it was being described, where you can sign up to basically tattle on someone you suspect of having or helping to have an abortion. Now, this is its own thing, but this website was basically kicked off of GoDaddy. It was kicked off of another web host and finally ended up on Epic right around the time that it was attacked. Now, these hackers on crack, steroids, got to be accurate here.
Wow.
Because there's quotes around
Can't
it.
misconstrue it.
Yeah.
Like that.
Now, these hackers on steroids really took a run at this web host. And the data that was collected from it is pretty substantial. So I took a look at the breach myself, and there's two different versions of this breach. There's a breach that's over 100 gigabytes, and then there's a more compressed, scaled down breach that's been organized by a group called Distributed Denial of Secrets. So looking at the actual data that was breached here, there's a lot of stuff that's problematic. We've got emails, we've got all sorts of other stuff that a company really would not want out there. They have SQL servers, they have so they have passwords for all of their customers who are using their service, which are, how do I say this? They are not using the best password protection. The passwords are not in plain text, but they are just MD5 hashed.
Oh, terrible.
So using hashed passwords that do not have a salt is a terrible security practice that I thought went away a long time ago. And for this reason and others, the company is not acknowledging the data breach. So they're just like, that's not us. That's not us. Don't worry about that. That's not us. But based on the amount of data here, it certainly looks as though something happened. So this is really interesting because the data was just released online for free a couple days ago. So if you're a security researcher, or if you're press, or if you're someone who's following this story, there's lots of different ways to get your hands on it because it's it's out there and it's now become part of public record. So data breaches are fascinating, and in this case, there was some additional forensics showing what the hackers were looking for. So you can see like their SQL queries, for example, and they went straight for credentials. Like they were going after SSH keys, after credentials. They really took advantage of how poorly this organization managed their data to go straight after the stuff that would be most valuable. And they proceeded to take, in a lot of cases, the hacker's actual target was the websites, or were the websites that were being hosted by Epic. So by going after Epic in order to attack their customers, what would you call this sort of attack?
I don't know, but it's pretty targeted.
Supply chain. So a supply chain attack means that rather than go after your actual target, you're going to go after something that they use. So like the SolarWinds attack was a really good example of that, where rather than go after all these really big businesses that were super important, they went after like a management platform that they were all using and managed to use that breach to sneak something into all their customers. So in this case, it looks as though the hackers were able to gain access to a lot of stuff. They were able to gain access to, again, credentials, SSH keys. They were able to gain access to VPN credentials. So if any customers use this to set up their own VPNs, well, these hackers have access to your VPN credentials and configurations. So there was a lot of data here that was super, super damaging to the customers here. And by not acknowledging the data breach, in some ways, this company kind of seems like they're making it worse. So now the customers of this provider basically need to worry about their credentials just being out there on the internet, as well as possibly private correspondence and other sorts of data. So this is not a ransomware attack. This is a hacktivism style attack, where this hacktivist group has gone after this business for doing unfavorable things, like hosting extremist platforms and otherwise giving a home to, well, some might say, some of the worst voices on the internet. So this is more, or it seems to be anyway, more of an activism related attack rather than an exploitation attempt, because as far as I know, there have been no demands. And official anonymous, not to be confused with those fake anonymous official.
Wait, that's so dumb.
One goes one way, one goes the other. Got to keep it straight. They have a branding problem. I'm just saying. But anonymous official is claiming responsibility for this, and they really just kind of go off on them, and they're like, these guys suck. We don't like them. They suck. They got what they deserved. Support your starving hacktivists, and they may bless you in turn. So, yeah, I mean, it seems as though hacktivism is still alive and well, and the kind of things that these people are focusing on, again, is going after platforms that are hosting famously controversial websites that are on the absolute fringe of what's usually even legally allowed, but sometimes just things that cannot be hosted anywhere else end up on these sorts of providers, and then are targets for hacktivists, because often these hosting providers maybe don't do the best job of securing their stuff. And because they make themselves big, fat targets by hosting these very attention-grabbing customers, it makes sense that over time we're going to start seeing more attacks like this as these attacks grab the news and get lots of attention. All right, so last week earlier this week we paused our Q&A to actually warn everyone to go ahead and update every Apple device from your MacBook Pro to your iPhone to your iWatch. What was the reason for that?
I don't remember the exact vulnerability, but there's like some sort of zero-click, zero-day that allows code to be executed without any user interaction, which is obviously really scary because like you don't even have to have like a link sent to you or anything that you would have to like physically interact with in order for this like vulnerability to run on your device.
Right. So it was a bad day for security. There was a zero-click, zero-day iMessage exploit, which means that if you were targeted by this exploit, you do not have any real options here. As soon as it's sent to you, your device is automatically exploited, and this tends to be the big bucks style package that groups like NSO Group will sell to customers like Saudi Arabia. And the problem here is they can't use this very often because if they do, it will be intercepted and it will be patched, which is exactly what happened here. An activist had their phone exploited, and then upon examining it, they found like a GIF which had been sent and basically triggered this whole chain of exploits, which was actually a disguised type of other file. And it's a really interesting read if you want to see more about it. But the point here is that basically these sorts of exploits are super effective. They can't be used that often, but they do exist, and they're often weaponized by companies like NSO Group in order to go after some of the most vulnerable people out there in exchange for vast sums of money. So I'm just gonna say, like, this is probably like some of the least ethical work you can get into, like basically causing incredible harm to people you don't know by enabling like terrible actors to do terrible things. So it's really depressing to know that like the dark side of cybersecurity enables this sort of behavior, and that sometimes we see these emergency bulletins going out to everyone where everyone was vulnerable to this before this update went out, and this company knew that and they sat on it in order to make money by harming people. So kind of a terrible thing to do, but it's just definitely worth noting that if you haven't updated, again, this includes macOS devices as well. So I had to update my macOS computer. If you have an iPhone, it definitely needs to be updated. And even iWatches are vulnerable to this exploit. So you need to go through and make sure that all this is updated because this is very serious stuff. Now, there's other types of exploits used by groups like the NSO Group that are, one-click or two-click exploits where you need to trick the person into doing one or two things, which dramatically reduces the likelihood that they actually will be exploited. So these tend to cost a lot less. But these are the very dramatic ones you want to watch out for, because when you receive an alert like this, it means that basically one of these mercenary hacking groups has had one of their very expensive tools burned, which frankly makes me very happy to see. Okay, yeah. Yeah, just again mentioning the fact that it affects iWatches too is just wild to me. Oh, wow, new.
Not
TikTok
so new.
is removing educational hacking / cybersecurity videos. YouTube does it too. Really? But TikTok is very aggressive, it seems. Means creators are self-censoring, avoiding even the word hack. TikTok reinstated a video after we flagged, then banned again.
That's such a dramatic reaction.
Yeah.
Just like banning a whole entire word like that.
Well, okay. So I have been on TikTok for a good amount of time publishing cybersecurity content, and this is not new.
Yeah.
This has been the way that it has worked for at least a year on TikTok. If you publish hacking-related content, then it's extremely likely that it's going to be taken down for a number of different things. I had a video where I outlined the security of my dentist office, and I went to great pains to anonymize this dental office. You didn't even know what state it was in. And they took it down for harassment and bullying. I anonymously harassed and bullied my dentist. And thus, my video about how they had all their stuff connected to an open network and all this other stuff was taken down. Really, I wanted to talk about security in the normal places that you might find yourself. But TikTok took my video down for harassment and bullying. They took it down for illegal goods and services because they determined that because I explained how a hacker would, in theory, take advantage of an attack like this on a different video, they determined that that was instructional hacking, basically, and took it down and refused to let me even appeal it. So you cannot be too informative on TikTok, or it will be taken down. You cannot not even get that much attention on TikTok. So I went big the other way, and I posted a video talking about how a particular Dunkin' Donuts does not care that their cameras are exposed. And basically anybody can see the security cameras at this Dunkin' Donuts. And not only did my work receive an angry phone call from a man who claimed that I was teaching teenagers how to hack a McDonald's franchise, I also got 200,000 views and then my video taken down after less than a week, because after a while, TikTok reviewed it and determined that it was, I think it was illegal goods and services. So it was taken down and now I can't appeal it. So this is not new. If you're a creator that makes any hacking related stuff on TikTok, you have had a video taken down, which is why, frankly, I don't make videos on TikTok very often. And when I do, I never spend more than about an hour or two making them, because the odds are they're going to be taken down after a very short period of time. So I like TikTok as a platform for getting people to see things that are interesting, engaging, and like a good short format. But for certain types of content, again, you can't say the word like how to hack XYZ, because like for moderators who are underpaid, overworked, and like barely know the difference between ethical hacking and, you know, just criminal hacking, they don't care, and they're going to play it safe, especially on TikTok. So I've been complaining about this for a very long time. It's very funny to me that anytime like Vice News finds out about something, they're just like, no, this is never. And it's just like, no, this has always been the case with TikTok. So you can see in this example, our friend Serena was having a rough go at it. She goes by She Networks on TikTok, which, by the way, you should definitely check out if you haven't already. And she was literally showing off how to use Hydra on a website that is designed to allow you to hack. It's called Try Hack Me. Like that's how.
That's as clear as it can get.
Yeah, and it was taken down. And you know, the problem is here, if somebody decides they don't like your content, or if they leave like a dumb comment and you're snappy back to them, they can just abuse TikTok's moderation features to flag your videos and have them taken down so that it's not worth it for you to even upload them. Let me give you an example. So let's say that I post a video, Alex doesn't like it, or just doesn't like me. He can go in and he can flag my account for something that basically ensures it will be taken down for a period of time for review. And because TikTok is so backed up, if I had a great video I've been working on for a week, I post it and Alex flags it for harassment and bullying, that video goes down for 4, 5, 6 days, maybe a week. And when it comes back up, TikTok basically treats the video as though it has been up for a week with no views, so it doesn't show it to anybody. So you'll see like maybe 50, 100 views on a video that would normally get 10,000, 100,000. So it's really easy for harassment to kind of trickle through on TikTok. So if you're an educational like cybersecurity person, you're trying to like teach people, you will get people like harassing you. You'll get people calling your work. You will get people taking your video content down. So it's funny to me that like Vice is just learning about this, because it has been a problem for quite some time.
Yeah.
And it's not just about self-censorship. It's just like, why would somebody who's not getting paid for this voluntarily spend their time trying to teach other people on TikTok when their experience is like having their work called and their job threatened? So, you know, like this is definitely a problem when it comes to social media platforms. We had a video taken down that was literally like how to hack Metasploitable. And this was Hak5, who's been around for like a long, long time. So like this is a problem with security content on all platforms, definitely. But even YouTube gets it wrong sometimes, and we have to self-censor by making sure our titles are things like how hackers do XYZ rather than how to hack XYZ, because frankly, censors just can't tell the difference. So yeah, this story made me laugh because like we've been dealing with this for absolutely ever. But TikTok is just the latest and most aggressive form of just discouragement, I guess, for cybersecurity content on social media platforms. But if you want to check out our stuff on there, we are at Hak5, and I have not posted for a long time because it's just too stressful. When your video does do well, you get people calling and trying to get you fired, and when your video doesn't do well, it gets taken down instantly for harassment and bullying. So at a certain point, you just get tired. Oh boy. Okay, so let's talk about these dipsticks that made our country proud by receiving training and employment by our intelligence services, and then going on over to the United Arab Emirates and creating a spy program for them.
Wow.
To target activists and sell them cyber weapons. So I am floored by this, because if I was like a homeless person and I walked into a store and stole like groceries, I would not get the opportunity to pay for those groceries. I would just get arrested and prosecuted for shoplifting because I committed, a crime. And a lot of people would be like, yeah, you committed a crime. But these people literally sold cyber weapons to a very sketchy country when it comes to human rights, who has a history of targeting activists and other people that don't like the way that they rule their country. So going and, in violation of United States export laws, giving these people a bunch of zero-day exploits and setting up advanced surveillance that they're probably going to abuse to do stuff that would never be legal in our country, kind of seems like a slap in the face to the rest of the world, when these dudes are literally getting deferred prosecution, so they just got to pay the money back and pinky promise to not sell cyber weapons to another country with a poor human rights record. If I could just go commit a crime and they're like, all right, you rascal, we caught you this time, you got to give it back, but don't you do it again, you scrappy guy. Like, who gets this sort of favorable treatment? Like, if you are enabling a country to target other people in, like, somewhere else in the world, and then you come back home and what you've done is illegal, the fact that you can pay the United States government like $1 million and a half to make the whole thing go away makes me deeply sad. Because again, like, it seems like you have less options for wiggling your way out of like stealing food from a grocery store than blatantly violating arms export laws to a country with terrible human rights records. So this is just deeply depressing. I really don't have much to say about this other than that you should read the indictment. The stuff that these 3 ex-intelligence people did was absolutely inexcusable, I would say. It's like they clearly should have known better. And the fact that like we have like ex-intelligence dudes just rolling around acting as mercenaries for like anybody that pays them is a really bad look on our country and the way that we train and then release these people into the world. We literally have arms export control laws that are around like computer exploits that are especially developed in the United States, perhaps like with the assistance of the intelligence community. So like turning around and just selling those on the open market as soon as you're not employed by an intelligence service anymore is like a really, really bad look. Not only is it like incredibly unethical, and you could always just friggin' not. You know what? You could just stay home and not target activists in another country by helping these dudes. But they did. So don't do that. And also, these guys suck.
Yeah, that's just like so reprehensible on so many levels. Like the fact that they've like not only given out this information, but like the ability to just like pay it off. It's completely sketchy.
Yeah, so that at this point, if they follow the terms of this agreement, then they won't even have criminal convictions.
That's so stupid.
Yeah, whereas like the people who were targeted by the surveillance apparatus that they helped create will probably have no idea whatever happened to them. Like it's just really scary to know that you can go out and do a bad thing in another country that really affects the lives of other people. Because you'll never meet them, you just won't ever actually incur any consequences. So very, very sad to see members of the like InfoSec and security community going out and doing stuff like this, because like, that's how you make money if you don't care about other people. Oh, and guess what? It keeps getting even better. So I'm going to jump ahead because have you ever heard of ExpressVPN?
I have.
Okay. Have you ever considered using it?
Yes, but I am poor, and I believe they're a paid service.
Yeah, so if you're a customer of ExpressVPN, one of the founders of ExpressVPN was one of these guys.
Oh my god, what?
Yes. So
That's awful.
Right, so
it totally violates like the entire like privacy concept of like what VPNs are made to do.
Yeah,
like,
so imagine
heck?
like you sign up for a VPN, you're like, cool, sick, a VPN, not knowing that it's like an ex-US intelligence officer who is now working for the UAE.
That's so crappy.
Yeah, so I can't stress enough like how much of a failure this is for just like, anybody using ExpressVPN basically. It just means that the CIO of the VPN ExpressVPN is one of the three
Oh my
people
God.
named in this. It kind of makes you think, like, how private was that service if these people were surveillance experts and mercenaries employed by a sketchy government? I'm just like, like, we always warn people about VPNs. You're just like, listen, like, if you're going to be doing stuff on a VPN, do not assume that VPN is more trustworthy than, just like setting up your own VPN or something like that. Most people don't have the bandwidth for that, and most people don't really care that much if, they're going to be just doing basic stuff and want to hide from their internet service provider so it doesn't catch data about them or prevent themselves from being exploited locally on their own Wi-Fi connections, something like that. But the fact that, you're giving data to obviously money-hungry people who do not care about privacy at all for anybody but themselves. If you're willing to go, again, into another country and develop a surveillance system for them that's going to be used against people that don't deserve it, then maybe don't use that guy's VPN service. Like, maybe that guy doesn't have a view of privacy that you share if you are buying a VPN. So if you don't care that, your VPN might actually just be a pipeline of data that this mercenary group is selling to anybody who's interested in people using VPNs, then ExpressVPN is a great choice. But otherwise, such people as Edward Snowden are now saying that perhaps if you're a customer of ExpressVPN, you should just not be. You should maybe just not be. So this is a crazy story. The fact that some of these people are, tangled up in the management of like a VPN company is very, very interesting, because you don't know who else from that group maybe is at that VPN company, or really what their interest in privacy and security is given their backgrounds. So definitely check out the story if you're interested in like rogue American cyber intelligence people going out and doing a bunch of bad stuff on the international stage. Certainly makes us look bad as a country. But yeah, very, very sad to see this story. And then also sad to see that these people have completely, it seems, escaped punishment, except for having to give back the money that they earned like illegitimately by doing illegal stuff. So man, I bet a lot of like cartels and other people really wish they had the opportunity to just give back the money when they were caught. But it seems like these guys got special treatment. Gee, I wonder why.
That's so lame.
I actually like hate the story, and it makes me so mad. So we're gonna go to something that makes me less mad, and this is the Wi-Fi Nugget. So we have been testing out the latest version of the Wi-Fi Nugget, which is supposed to be a tool for beginners to learn about like ethical hacking, cybersecurity, and also just programming and hardware. So currently we've been trying out MicroPython on it with some help from my friend Arsenis, and we've managed to make a version of Nugget which has this adorable face on it. And soon we'll have some more example stuff. So stay tuned for more stuff featuring this cute little Nugget, because it's been a lot of fun to create. And this is.
Do you have those awful anime eyes that it can do as well?
Oh, yeah.
Oh my god,
Here we
I
go.
hate it.
Here, so I've been programming a variety of different eyes for the Wi-Fi Nugget. These crying anime eyes are so far the least favorite of everyone.
The Garfield was pretty awful too.
Oh yeah, I did do Garfield. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you have some suggestions for the eyes this Wi-Fi Nugget should be sporting, please let me know. There were a lot of things that have been rejected. The crying anime eyes, I think, are as far as we can go into that realm. But yeah, no, this has been a super fun project, and getting started with MicroPython is actually really easy. We're going to be working on making it even easier for people, but yeah, expect some guides probably on Hak5 about how to get started with MicroPython and all the cool stuff you can do with it, because it's been a lot of fun. And if you haven't tried it, I just wanted to give a shout out because it is very, very cool.
Yeah, it's a great platform.
So I'm also going to shout out Wiggle Wi-Fi. So Alex, what is Wiggle Wi-Fi?
It's a software that lets you war drive on your phone, as well as a database that contains like a couple million different Wi-Fi networks that are located like around the world that people have war drived.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
War driven.
Yeah. So Wiggle Wi-Fi on Android application or on Android phones is probably the fastest and easiest way for people to get started collecting Wi-Fi information and putting it out in a format that they can easily interact with in like Python or Map or really anything you want to do. I really like Wiggle. It's actually probably my favorite Android app. That's saying something. Because it's just an incredible like signals intelligence platform. It works with Bluetooth. It works with cell phone towers, so you can do trilateralization of cell phone towers. You can even spot cell site simulators, by like looking for cell phone towers that are moving or not supposed to be there. Super cool. Will break with the most recent version of Android. So that's not good because I use a Pixel. And I had just, left Samsung for the Bixby button, which I'm still not, I still haven't forgiven them for. But I might be a refugee again if they break my precious Wiggle.
Oh no. Is it only for, it's only for Pixel devices?
Yeah, it's only for Pixel devices so far. But again, that sucks because I'm a huge war driver and I do enjoy keeping my Pixel updated. So, yeah.
Then you might want to consider my $15 ESP8266 platform for war driving, Cody.
Ah, yes. Well, it looks like the Wiggle app 2.62 fixes this. So there might be a fix in the pipeline. But for now, if you're like working on some big project, then like, yes, you probably don't want to do that. Hey, what a wonderful lead-in. Why don't you talk about your latest video? Oh my gosh, that's us. Wow.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh wait, is that the live stream?
Yeah, it's like staring into a friggin' mirror. So this is your most recent video. Why don't you talk about what's cool about this?
Yeah, so the coolest thing is this awful thumbnail of me like creepily smiling. But besides that, I used the ESP8266 to create a $15 war driving platform with just a few hardware modules. So it's like an SD card module that stacks on top of,
Yeah, sorry.
That stacks on top of the ESP8266, which you can see in the thumbnail. So with like the D1 Mini form factor for the ESP8266, you can basically just like stack hardware modules together, which is super modular. So we were able to put this together with like very simple wiring, and I created like a Wiggle compatible war driving setup for fairly cheap.
Yeah, and the only things you need to do this are a couple stackable components, which is so cool. So just by being able to stack a couple things on top of each other, it makes it really simple to just add like an SD card module or something like that, which is really wild. And I also want to just give a shout out to our lazy Susan for a guest appearance in this. Yeah. We've had this lazy Susan for a year, and we haven't had a chance to bust it out. But look at this sweet rotating footage. Just wheeling that lazy Susan around in a circle.
It's usually home to like muffins and random bagels on our kitchen countertop, but it was finally put in good action.
Exactly. So if you thought we were running around with the gimbal in a circle, no. We were just using a kitchen lazy Susan to just spin this thing around. But yeah, so this is an awesome video. If you wanted to get started war driving and either you have a Pixel phone that you updated so you can't, or you just want to use a $15 rig that can be in your car, you could strap it to a drone. Oh yeah, that's really what's cool about this.
We did include drone footage.
Yeah, in the end, we did in fact strap this to a drone. So once you finish actually, setting this up and plugging in the SD card, you can just take this and strap it to a drone, which is exactly what we did. So this was our very ugly setup with a little battery, and there it goes, flying off with its payload. So yeah, I just have to say this was a super, super cool video because I love how cheap it is. Some people in the comments didn't believe it. They're like, this is more like $40. But the links...
comes up to under $10.
Yeah, we got the receipts. So Alex added not just the Amazon components, but the AliExpress components. So if you're willing to wait for, like a couple weeks for this stuff to come in, it's like $10. It's really, really cheap. Whereas if you want to get it done with Amazon, you can also do this for like $30 or so. But really, the magic here is being able to create something that can geolocate the position of wireless access points around you, for such a low price. Yeah. So Alex also has videos on when you have this data, what to do with it. So if you check out some of his other recent videos, he actually shows you how to take the data that you record with this war driving wig and plot it on a map so you can like search for individual devices, or you can just see relatively where everything is. Super, super cool, and I really, really like this video. So just wanted to give a shout out because I thought it was very well done and is a great resource.
Thank you.
Speaking of great resources, Kali Linux just released a new update.
Hey.
So this 2021.3 release is updates to OpenSSL, Kali tools, and then as Zam repeatedly pointed out, Kali NetHunter smartwatch.
Whoa.
Right?
What does it run on?
Smartwatches.
What? Oh.
Yeah.
Well, is it a proprietary like Kali released watch or like general tick watch? I've never heard of that.
Oh, you mean like is this just a is this a
no? Like what is the
watch?
Yeah, like who makes that watch? But apparently it's tick watch. I've never heard of them.
Yeah, still experimental, limited to USB attacks. What? Okay. Hardware has some limitations. Small battery won't supply enough voltage for OTG adapters. So huge antennas won't stick out of your wrist.
Yes.
So yeah, there's some limitations here, but like what? That is so weird. Like
Sure beats the what is that? The ESP watch.
the ESP watch.
The D-Stike watch.
Yes, the D-Stike watch is definitely a bit ugly. Yeah, this is definitely more stylish. But yeah, so very, very interesting subset of stuff, I guess, that you can do. Also, Zam was pointing out that there's some really interesting like EEP tools against Wi-Fi and some other stuff that's been implemented here. So really excited to test this out. Of course, we've been going back and forth between like Manjaro and Kali Linux and Parrot Security OS, but I really do like Kali Linux, so seeing all the new stuff they've added makes me very happy, and I'm going to be checking this out very soon. Maybe someone could even come up with a guide on all the stuff to do.
That'd be really great.
On setting up the new Kali Linux, huh?
I wonder if someone makes like tutorials on a YouTube channel
Yeah,
that could make those
perhaps
sorts of
perhaps they
things.
could come out.
They're
Yeah,
pretty great.
All right, so another thing that Zam shouted out, I'd never heard of this, but like I was like, oh, look at this MacBook Pro. No, it's not. It's actually the opposite of MacBook Pro in that it's designed to be upgraded and stuff. I guess this just came out today. Again, I'm not a huge fan of this yet because I know very little about it, but seeing another one of these computers that is designed to be upgradable, designed to basically be more for the users than all the stuff that is come out for Apple, basically is kind of the competitor. It's pretty cool. So again, Zam recommended, but not tested. So something to keep an eye on.
I've seen that it's a pretty cool platform, it looks like.
Yeah. We got and tested a Librem laptop, and I will not say anything about it because it did not go well. But you know, seeing these computers that are privacy focused to various different degrees is really cool, and I'm always happy to try them out. So if they wanted to, send me a computer box, I'll take it. I'll take it. All right. So what is Yandex?
No clue.
What?
I've heard of them. I don't know what they do.
They're Russian. Okay, so Yandex is basically like Russian Google. It's a company that's as large as Google would be but in Russia.
I know what spandex is.
That is so totally unrelated, Alex. All right. So a Russian-based technology and search giant. So basically, yeah, this is the equivalent of like Google in Russia. They're a giant search engine. But apparently they were targeted with what they're claiming to be the largest distributed denial of service attack in history. So this is a pretty bold claim, but they were saying that they were getting basically 22 million requests per second. And this was from a botnet that is like a variant of the Mirai botnet. It's basically using the same code, but has been forked and then has created its own separate botnet. So this botnet is spooky. It's called Metis. It's got that special E, so you know it's very serious. And it's developed on the network equipment of a very popular vendor from the Baltic states. We can say Latvia, but okay. Yeah, so like literally the next story we're talking about is Microtik, which is that exact company that they were alluding to. And of course it says here that they were involved. So last year there was a big attack against this company, and they make router equipment. So this is like high-end stuff that is connected to the internet via, like an Ethernet cable, not like some like doorbell that like the Mirai botnet might typically attack. So these distributed denial of service attacks are basically like they'll tend to go after IoT devices or other devices which are really easy to target but might not be that powerful. So a lot of the time, like we'll have a botnet that maybe has like a lot of different devices in it, but the actual power of those devices to really do much isn't that great. Now that is not the case with this botnet because they are targeting a specific type of technology which was found to have a bunch of flaws. It means that they were able, the attackers here were able to get access to, I think like over 200,000 different devices that are really powerful. So these are able to do lots of stuff that like the average IoT device would not be able to do. And the size of this is really what is alarming people. Yeah, so it looks like they started targeting Yandex's servers in early August. And the attacks just started getting larger and larger. 5.2 million requests per second, 6.5, 9.6, 10.9, and finally 21.8, which does make it the largest attack in the history of the internet.
So they're using these routers, or rather hardware that's like been exploited.
Yeah, so they're controlling roughly 250,000 devices. Most of them are network gateways and routers. So because these devices are, again, like plugged in with Ethernet cables and able to generate a lot of traffic, these attacks are able to be a lot nastier than some of the attacks we've seen with the Mirai botnet. Now, I mean, the Mirai botnet was crazy. Like at its height, it was able to generate a ton of traffic, and it was a very, very dangerous botnet. But really, what's interesting about this is device selection matters. When you're a group that's trying to build a botnet, going after devices that have a lot of capability, even if there might not be as many of them, leads to some really interesting things, such as being able to launch these attacks of historic proportions. So very bad week for Yandex, having to deal, again, with historically large denial of service attacks. But what is a denial of service attack?
It's exactly that. It's when like a certain service is like denied by, like for instance, you can also do like distributed denial of service, where you can have multiple like users or endpoints that are like simultaneously attacking a single service. So that could be like a website, some sort of service that's usually provided to a user, something like that.
Yeah, so in this case, like, there's lots of different ways that people do this. Like, you can either send lots of requests and try to flood the server so it can't accept any new ones, or you can do something like the slow Loris attack, where you're basically holding open connections for as long as possible and trying to saturate the number of connections that can be kept open, if not by sending a lot of data. So there's lots of different techniques attackers can use once they have a sufficiently large botnet to cause disproportionate traffic against an intended victim. So that seems like what was happening here, and it's interesting to see that the Mirai botnet is still around and kicking in kind of a forked version. So this one, again, was derived from the Mirai botnet malware code, and that's really what makes it kind of dangerous, is we've seen what the Mirai botnet can do, so this new version of it that's attacking kind of more powerful devices is something to definitely keep an eye on. All right, let's talk about Azure. So can you summarize what the problem that was discovered with the Azure app when running Linux VMs is?
I think there's like a service that silently integrates with this application that gets installed on user devices. And something with like how they interact was like exploited, allowing like authentication, or rather allowing like packets for authentication to be like dropped, and giving attackers like potential access to these servers just by like just by messing around with like raw post requests and removing like an authentication header. Yeah. So basically, if people are using Azure Cloud to create like a VM or like a Linux machine, the problem here is that it also installs management software. So this is open management infrastructure, and this automatically deploys. It's trying to make people's lives easy, but nobody knows that it's installed, and it also doesn't automatically update. So when we have a problem with something like this, it's just kind of like stuck right in there, because it's not obvious to customers that it's here, and because it's not easy for customers to update. That means they basically need to update their entire instance. Instead of just like running like a quick update, this becomes a much larger chore, which is very unappreciated by all the people who didn't know that this management engine was running on their Linux machine. So now they have something that they did not put there that is extremely vulnerable. We have a CVSS score of 9.8. That's really bad. Yeah.
That's really, really bad. And now, like, you have to go in and like fix all this stuff. So the open management infrastructure is an open source analogous equivalent of Windows management infrastructure, but designed for Linux. And that's great. But again, because most of these people did not understand that this was installed in their environments, most people are going to be blissfully unaware that this is a problem. And even if they are aware, it's going to be a pain to update it. So just very unfortunate. And OMI is just one example of a secret software agent that's pre-installed and silently deployed in cloud environments. It's important to note that these agents exist not just in Azure, but in Amazon Web Services and Google Cloud platforms as well. So this is not just a problem here. This is something that could pop up in any cloud service where you're creating like a virtual machine, and you don't know that these management agents are installed because they're done so silently and they don't really ask for permission. They're just done because that's the way they do it. So yeah, very scary to see that something with so little knowledge about it actually being on so many people's systems is being abused, because it creates huge problems for people who now need to update from this. If you want to see more about the really bad remote code execution vulnerability, you can check out the CVE. It's 2021-38647, and yeah, it is bad. It is quite bad. So
the implementation was scary too. Just like only having to like malform a single packet in order to like execute this vulnerability. That's pretty scary.
Yeah. An attacker could send a series of specially crafted messages via HTTPS to port listening on OMM on a vulnerable system. That sucks. Yeah, so being able to remotely trigger this is really, really bad. So please make sure to update your stuff if you have anything that matches the description I supplied of an Azure-based cloud service that runs Linux. All right, so how do you feel about Windows Subsystem for Linux?
I thought it was a pretty interesting, I thought it was interesting that they chose to include that in the new Windows update. And I was also thinking about it possibly being a new vector for exploits. So I'm not too surprised.
Yeah, have you ever tried using Windows Subsystem for Linux?
I haven't used Windows in 4 years, so no.
Oh, okay. Well, that explains the way you feel about it. Because if you had ever touched Windows Subsystem for Linux, your first words would have been, I hate Windows Subsystem for Linux.
My first words are, I hate Windows.
Meh. Well, all right. I think you're not going to find a lot of people who agree with you on this show. In our audience, yeah. Especially maybe Verona's customers who almost exclusively rely on Windows. But
I love Windows.
Yeah, there you go.
It's pretty great.
Yeah, so Windows Subsystem for Linux, we tried doing a live stream on it over a year ago, and we soured on it over the course of an hour so much. It does not really do anything very well that you would want to do, like in Kali Linux, for example. But now somebody has finally found a good use for Windows Subsystem for Linux. And apparently it's to embed malware into the Windows computer.
Ah, wonderful.
Right? So I am impressed that somebody found a use for Windows Subsystem for Linux, but it looks like the compatibility layer has some problems that could hide malware or make it easier for somebody to sneak something around the kind of things that are going to be looking for this kind of malware on the Windows system. So very, very interesting. Again, ironic, since Windows Subsystem for Linux I thought was totally useless, but it turns out there are a couple things it can do. So good for Windows Subsystem for Linux. I'm actually just congratulating it for doing something useful in this article. I'm not even mad that it's exploiting the computer it's running on. All right, so also another thing, thank you to Zam for pointing this out, is it's possible to go passwordless now on your Microsoft account. So if you want to get rid of your password, you can do that. So that if someone finds your account password, it does not do them any good whatsoever. And this is being replaced by things like private keys or being able to log in via two-factor or a hardware token. And in my opinion, that's a really good thing because passwords have definitely outlived their usefulness. And most people feel a false sense of security from using a password that if it's the only way of authenticating you is not warranted. So I'm glad to see that services are moving on from using passwords because frankly, they are not a good idea. Using like a hybrid approach where you're using a password with logging in is a little bit more standard, but I think this will probably be the future for the way that different services authenticate in the future. Obviously, GitHub has moved away from passwords as well. That's probably because they're the same company now, but it's interesting to see how the sort of authentication model is slowly evolving to be more secure and protect customers from themselves because passwords are not secure. All right, and just gonna kind of glance over this one because it's nowhere near as bad as the MikroTik one, but there's another critical bug that's affecting Netgear smart switches, and this one is almost as bad. The 7th Inferno is a CVSS score of 9.8, and then there's another one called Demon's Cries at another 9.8, and Draconian Fear at 7.8. Google security engineer, this guy's name with the last name Coldwind, obviously has a flair for naming stuff because
sounds like part of a Harry Potter trilogy or something.
Yeah, let me just read this. Successful exploitation of Demon's Cries and Draconian Fear could grant a malicious party the ability to change the administrator password without actually having to know the previous password or hijacking the session, bootstrapping information, resulting in full compromise of the device. So if you have a Netgear switch, or a smart switch rather, then this is definitely something you're going to want to pay attention to. The fact that it's so highly rated as a CVE definitely means that it is easy to exploit. You don't typically see CVEs rated this highly if you have to be logged in, already have the password and have permission, whatever. This seems like a very alarming thing. So if you have a Netgear smart switch, make sure to update because these sorts of security vulnerabilities can be extremely, extremely serious, as we saw with the Morai botnet that we just talked about. So if you leave this vulnerable, it's very likely that perhaps your Netgear smart switch becomes part of a different botnet that maybe goes and does something very bad. So for the sake of, whatever victim could be attacked by your zombified Netgear smart router or smart switch, please make sure to update that to avoid being exploited by either the seventh Inferno, the Demon's Cries, or Draconian Fear, as obviously you don't want any of those anywhere near you. Wow. I have to say, Mr. Coldwind, excellent names.
Yeah.
Or Mrs. Coldwind, I'm not totally sure. But either way, excellent names for these vulnerabilities. So, all right, have you ever used tar?
Yeah. I use it for like extracting packages and things like that.
Well, guess what?
Oh, God. Wonderful.
The GitHub security team recently identified 7 high security vulnerabilities in NPM packages tar.
Wow.
And then NPM, whatever this is. But tar is really the one that kind of is getting more attention here because it receives 20 million downloads on average per week. Yeah. So the other one, whatever this is 300,000. I don't care about that compared to 20 million. So the vulnerabilities affect both Windows and Unix systems, and it can be exploited by attackers to achieve arbitrary code execution. So
that's scary.
That is horrifying. And of course, like this is the problem with using like package managers like NPM. Like, we've had a couple other issues with NPM as well, where we found that packages had been slipped into there that had backdoors, and you could basically cause companies to maybe be exploited by making another version with the same name and then causing a conflict between the two. Like, so you could have a very popular package that you make another package for, submit it, and then you could trick people into updating to or installing your malicious package instead. So there have been security issues with this sort of thing before. It's just very interesting to see that such a popular package, like so many people use tar, this is just, again, the issue with downloading software from a package manager when there are potentially issues with them. And now NPM has come out and said, hey, you definitely want to update this because there's critical vulnerabilities. So it's good that this has come out, but again, this is not the first time we've seen NPM vulnerabilities with packages. So just be mindful of this when you are including other people's libraries or other people's software in your code or in your projects. The way that code is brought to you, the delivery system, is really important because sometimes attackers will use this as a kind of supply chain attack to distribute malicious code very, very widely. Because obviously 20 million is a lot of people to have potentially downloaded code with a very serious vulnerability. All right, we're running out of time. We got to get through. So do you know what Zoho is?
You told me about them. I forget.
So Zoho is an Indian-based project management and services-based company that provides services for businesses like email and other stuff. They're a competitor to lots of other stuff. They also have a CRM, like a customer relations manager, that allows people to keep track of their customers and figure out who they've talked to and who hasn't. So I haven't gotten a lot of alerts from the Coast Guard Cyber Command.
Wow.
And I don't know why they're involved here, but maybe they were using Zoho. But there is an APT group that is actively exploiting a critical flaw in Zoho's single sign-on and password management solution. So that means if you're using Zoho to secure, access to your account, then you've got a problem. So it says that their customers are 3 out of 5 Fortune 500 companies, and I think I even have like an email account that goes through Zoho. It's just like it's a very, very large services company that provides lots of cheaper competitors to Salesforce and stuff like that. So there's lots of different businesses that use this. Not everybody's, of course, using the password authentication, but there's lots of juicy data that's being stored within the services that this company offers. So definitely something worth mitigating. There's some patches that have been released. This is something where if your company or if you use Zoho for anything, you definitely want to update this because lots of people do use this, and it's something that is going to be a problem based on the data that's stored in this kind of application. Lots of customer data and lots of other stuff that could be an issue. And then, hey, finally some good news. If you were part of the Revile ransomware attack, it looks like the master decryption key has been released. So if you are a holdout that never paid the ransom, and you've just been waiting to decrypt your data, looks like you can do that now. So while Bitdefender could not share details about how they obtained the master decryption key, well, maybe they did it. I'm kidding. They didn't do it. But it's still funny that they're not telling how they got it. But it looks like they are now capable of decrypting any files that were encrypted with this ransomware. So Bleeping Computer looks like they have verified this. Look, a little GIF showing them decrypting stuff. Oh, and their beautiful flowers have returned. So I guess they're saying that law enforcement probably compromised the servers that were used as infrastructure in this attack, and maybe that's how they got the key. But either way, it's really great news that people who did not pay for the ransom are now able to get their files back, if incredibly late. They shut down their operation on July 13th. So it's just kind of been silent since then as to what's happened to these companies that were hit by them. So knowing that the decryptor is now out there is a great resolution for anybody that was hit by this attack and has just been sitting there hoping they can get their data back someday. All right. We already talked about this. Never mind. I guess that's it. So last thing is suspected the same group that went after the Epic web host also went after the Republican Governors Association and might have stolen things, including social security numbers. Again, attribution isn't totally clear here. They're not totally clear who's responsible for the breach, but it exploited Microsoft software. So there was a couple breaches related to Microsoft stuff with APTs earlier this year. We don't know yet if it was related to that, but still a really interesting note that yet another political organization has been hacked and that such sensitive data was released from it. So definitely worth checking out if you're interested in some more hacktivism style or maybe APT nation state style hacks that are going on currently. So that's all we have time for this week. Thank you, as always, to Zam for providing us with some of this news to go over. I especially like that laptop because I'd never heard of it and I would not have known about it without him. So thank you very much, Zam, and everybody else who is with us on the stream today. If you want to check out more great streams, make sure to take a look at our YouTube channel, where if you post a question for our Q&A stream, you could win a $100 Hak5 gift card, just like our viewer Liz did last week, which I believe she used to go and buy herself a Wi-Fi pineapple. What? Bash Bunny. I lied. A Bash Bunny, which is also great. So if you want to buy your own Hak5 product, for free, then make sure to go on over to the Security Forward, that's Security FWD YouTube channel, and leave us a question for our Q&A stream. And if we pick it, then you will automatically win a Hak5 gift card. So thank you very much to everyone who participates with each stream. We really love answering your questions and just talking to you every week. We'll see you next week. Have a good weekend. Bye.